Bernie Sanders has a detailed plan to help working people that he just released. HuffPost says Bernie Sanders has a plan to revive labor unions. The senator tells HuffPost it's time to ban right-to-work laws and make it easier to unionize. Sanders' bill, called the Workplace Democracy Act, would remove several of the major barriers to organized labor's growth. It would ban right-to-work laws, which allow employees to opt out of paying union dues, even though the union must still bargain on their behalf, leading to what unions call free riding. In recent years, Republicans and business groups have pushed to expand the reach of right-to-work laws, which are now on the books in 28 states, including traditional labor strongholds like Michigan and Wisconsin. The bill would also guarantee workers the right to form a union after a majority in their workplace have signed cards saying that that is their wish. Card check, as the process is known, lets organizers bypass the holding of a secret ballot election before which employers often pressure workers to vote no. Among its other provisions, Sanders' current bill would make it easier for unions to seek mediation when they can't reach a first contract with an employer in a reasonable period of time. Negotiations over a first contract can be an effective stall tactic for businesses, sometimes dragging on for years. The bill would also legalize secondary boycotts, allowing unions to target an employer's clients as a way to pressure the employer. Secondary boycotts were outlawed in 1947 under the Taft-Hartley Act, the same law that paved the way for right-to-work statutes. With Republicans controlling both chambers of Congress and the White House, Sanders' legislation has no real chance of becoming law anytime soon, but it could be another indicator that high-profile Democrats plan to make rejuvenating the labor movement a priority, particularly as progressive activists have been pushing the agenda to the left since the 2016 elections. So this is called the Workplace Democracy Act. It includes Tammy Baldwin, Sherrod Brown, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand. They've signed on to it. And listen, this is part of Bernie Sanders' mission to shift the Overton window back to the left. See, what happened is, post the FDR era, and then in a little bit of the LBJ era too, but after that, definitely with the Reagan Revolution in the 1980s, what happened was they famously said the era of big government is over, and there was a massive shift of the Overton window to the right, where now even Democrats kind of bought into the Republican premises and framework, namely that shrinking government is a good thing and, you know, the welfare state is a bad thing. They literally demonized the word welfare. Like, welfare state, ooh, bad. And what happened was the New Deal Democrat era was over, and so you didn't have Democrats anymore who were openly fighting for workers' rights and unions and for the little guy. So the Democrats got into bed with largely the same funders as Republicans. They got into bed with for-profit health insurance companies. They got into bed with Big Pharma. They got into bed with Wall Street and the military-industrial complex. And that's why you've had these watered-down, weak, corporate, centrist/center-right Democrats. Largely because of their funders and because of the dominant philosophy that came from the 1980s and onward. Well, the results are in. The middle class is obliterated. Now, during the time in U.S. history that was called the Golden Age of Economic Expansion, we had the middle class that was the envy of the world. We also had incredibly strong unions and high taxes on the rich and strong marketplace regulations. So now Bernie Sanders is trying to make it so that that's what the Democrats stand for again. They stand for tight regulations on Wall Street and the marketplace. They stand for higher taxes on the rich. They stand for fighting for unions. So he's right. And this stuff guaranteed. Listen, man, it's not a coincidence that when we had our strongest labor unions, we had the best middle class and the middle class that was the envy of the world. So you want to stop the stagnating wages, you want to bring back a healthy middle class, you have to revitalize unions. So all of these ideas are right on point for what needs to be done. And then, of course, Bernie's also pushing $15 minimum wage. He's pushing Medicare for all. He's pushing free college and all of these things. If you put all these things together, man, listen, we can actually make the United States great. End the wars on top of that, do a New Deal. We can make the United States a thriving social democracy. And he's leading that fight. And it's great that he's doing this, but we need aggressive, consistent Democrats who are all going to push for this, because one guy can't do it on his own. But thankfully, activists have been pushing the Democratic Party left, and they shouldn't stop.